I am a person who has done a lot of things wrong, and now I am paying for it. I married my then-girlfriend young. We were both barely 20 years old, but she became pregnant, and we got married. 2 years later, we had our second child. They were two of the cutest little girls you could imagine, Amber and Brittany. I am now divorced for more than 3 years. I miss my ex-wife very much. I also miss seeing my children more often, although I try to be an important part of their lives. They are now 8 and 10 years old and live with their mother. Let me try to start from the beginning, after we got married. I attended college part-time and worked. I had to quit school to earn more money. I was lucky and got a great job at a car assembly plant thanks to my father, who put some effort into getting me the job. I loved Darcy, my wife, very much. When we met, she was so young, sweet, and innocent. She was petite and, in my opinion, very beautiful. I think we were too young to get married, at least I was. I took her for granted, which I now know was a very serious mistake. As far as I knew, our sex life was good. At 20, I was not the greatest lover or worldly man. We had sex, and it was good. Very rarely did she refuse me. Until Amber was born, we did this almost every night. Sometimes it was fast, and sometimes we took our time. After Amber was born, our sex life deteriorated somewhat. Darcy worked part-time in the school cafeteria, and I worked all my free time at an automobile plant. We struggled, like most young couples, but overall we lived a pretty decent life. After Britt was born, our sex life deteriorated even more. We were down to once a week or so, which seemed like a big drop in our sex life for two young people in love. I started joking with a couple of the assembly girls at the factory. It started as a joke, but went a little further, and I would touch their breasts or butts. It was all a joke, but the more they let me touch them, the more I did it. I was young and never thought about the consequences of my actions. A group of us who worked together left one day after working late. I told Darcy I was going to work with the guys for a few beers. It was true, but I never mentioned the girls who came with us. One was single, the other was divorced. They were 3 years older than me. One thing led to another, and someone threw some change into the jukebox, and Ellie, one of the girls, asked me to dance. I grabbed her ass, and she didn't complain. It had been a few days since I had done anything with Darcy, and I soon started to get horny. Ellie asked me to go out to the car. Ellie, I can't. I'm married, and I can't do this to Darcy. We don't need to have sex, Rhett. Let's just play a little. We walked to my car, I sat down, and Ellie started kissing me. She unbuttoned her jeans, and I saw her underwear. She took my hand and placed it on her lower abdomen. There was nothing I could do about it. If you ever want to play again, just find me. She got out of my car, got into hers, and drove off. I felt bad. I felt like I had cheated on Darcy. I tried to convince myself it wasn't a scam, but I knew I was just kidding. I promised myself that if God forgives me, I will never do this again. I think most guys have been there at one time or another. When I got home, I ran to the bathroom and washed my hands. It seemed that Ellie's scent had not gone away. I know it's just a glitch in my brain. I greeted Darcy, grabbed Amber, and hugged her. I needed to do something to get rid of the guilt I felt. Later, when Darcy and I went to bed, I tried to grope her and make love, but she told me she was too tired that night. I spent the next few days trying to avoid Ellie. She came up to me and said, "Don't worry, Rhett. It was nothing. I don't expect you to divorce your wife and marry me. It was just a little game between friends," she said. She laughed and left. Time passed and everything returned to normal. Darcy and I bought a house, a 3-bedroom ranch with a pool. We knew it would be a little tight for our budget, but we wanted to own a home or at least buy one. My parents gave me enough money for a down payment and we moved. It was in a small town, about 10 miles from work. The school where Darcy worked was a couple of blocks down the street. Darcy's mom looked after the children when Darcy worked, so we didn't have to pay for child care. The area was filled with young people buying their first homes. It was quite nice because almost all of us had small children. We became friends with some of our neighbors, but with others Darcy said she didn't trust. Our life went on and became boring. I know this happens to almost everyone. Sex became routine, but Darcy was happy with our sex life. As I mentioned earlier, I probably wasn't the best lover and Darcy hopefully had no one to compare me to. We couldn't resist and bought a computer. Darcy used it to play games when she had time and to send emails to her family and friends. I used it to go online and find some erotic stories, or let's say, adult movies to read and watch. It became something addictive. I wanted to diversify our sex life, but I think that this was the first step towards the collapse of my marriage. I read story after story about cheating wives and cuckolding husbands, who I like to call weaklings, and it got me thinking. If I caught Darcy cheating on me or found out that she had done so in the past, how would I react? This is what every man probably thinks about after reading such stories. Fantasy versus reality, that is the question. I know that I like it when my wife looks attractive. In this case, I understand that she will attract the attention of the opposite sex. I think it's all about how we deal with it. If I ever saw another man touch my wife, I would knock him out. At least that's what I hope I will do. I get jealous and even a little angry when she dances close to another man at a party. On the other hand, and this is really a fantasy, I ask myself the question, would I enjoy seeing her have sex with another man? I know that in the heat of passion I said such things. Come on, baby, do you feel how much he wants you? Do you want two guys at the same time? Do you like it? I said even worse. Ever had sex with a black guy? How about exposing yourself to other men? Did you do this? Have you allowed other men to touch your breasts? Do you want other men to touch them? During sex, I want her to say yes, but she always says no, that she only wants me. I don't understand why I say such things. Am I the only pervert in this world? Do I have a desire to destroy my marriage? I have no reason to suspect her of cheating. Perhaps it has to do with what I read or watch on TV. Every show has someone cheating or having sex. I'm surprised they have time for acting. Not only are these programs, but the actors and actresses themselves have real-life situations that almost match their on-screen performances. I think too many of these types of television shows can ruin a marriage. After one of my fantasy conversations, Darcy asked me if I was happy with her. She was worried about us and wondered why I was saying such things. I tried to explain that this was probably due to the stories I had read about unfaithful wives. Rhett, honey, I swear to God that I will never cheat on you. I've learned that when two people are in a relationship, it's important to learn something about that person's personality. I learned very early in our relationship that Darcy was a person with two very distinct traits that dominated her personality. She was a loving wife and mother, a gentle, calm woman who was adored by everyone. She would cry over little things, and I always wanted to hug her. She was like cotton candy. Darcy's other side came out when she was angry. She was becoming a bitch with a capital B. No one wanted to be on her bad side. She could swear like the best of them. She was not afraid of anyone or anything. I think she becomes psychotic when she gets really angry. One day, when she was pregnant with Brittany, we went out and some woman said something nasty to her. Darcy beat the woman to a pulp before anyone could intervene to stop her. I tried to stay away from that side of Darcy. One day, when I was working late, Darcy invited some of her friends to go swimming in the pool. Some even brought their children. I went into the house and looked out the window overlooking the backyard. Damn it. Most of these women looked pretty good and were wearing two-piece swimsuits. One of the girls named Alice came into the house. I stepped back from the window and walked to the front door, pretending that I had just come home. "Hi, Rhett. Just came home?" she asked. "Yes, I worked late. How was the pool party?" "Oh, the water is just wonderful. I have a slight headache and Darcy said there is aspirin in the medicine cabinet." "Wait, I'll get it for you." When I returned, Alice had filled a glass of water and I handed her the aspirin. "Thank you, Rhett," she said. "My pleasure. Would you like me to massage your temples? It's very relaxing." I wanted Alice to sit inside for a few minutes so I could admire her body. "Okay, but only for a minute. I have to get back to the kids." She was divorced with 2 children and an amazing body. She sat down on a straight-backed chair, and I began massaging her temples. She closed her eyes and simply sat back in her chair. I lowered my hands to her neck and continued massaging, now her neck. "Oh, this feels so good. Your cool hands are so wonderful." Women often carry a lot of tension in their necks and shoulders. I lowered my hands to her shoulders and began to massage them. I could also see her chest rise and fall with her breathing. "You keep massaging me like this, and I'll let you do it forever," she said softly. Watching her breasts rise and fall turned me on. I don't know why, but I lowered my hands to her breasts and into her swimsuit, squeezing the soft curves with my hands. "God, this is so good. You can massage me whenever you want," Alice said. I must have snapped out of my sexual trance because I quickly pulled my hands out of her swimsuit. Why didn't she object? As I was retreating, I saw Darcy come through the door. "Hey, honey, just got home. What's happening?" she asked. Alice said, "I took an aspirin and Rhett massaged my temples. I think it helped." Yes, Rhett is a real massage therapist. He will never massage anything other than your temples with a body like yours. Otherwise, he will find another wife," Darcy said, laughing. Alice laughed along with Darcy and stood up, adjusting her swimsuit. "I'd better go back to my little monsters," Alice said. As she was leaving, she looked back and winked at me. "Rhett, can you get the hot dogs out of the refrigerator? I want to fry them for the kids," Darcy asked. Hoping that I had escaped punishment, I said, "Of course, dear. Go see your friends, and I'll roast some hot dogs." I leaned over, kissed her, and went to the refrigerator. It's sad that it didn't bother me more. Maybe this could be a wake-up call. Looking back, I definitely could have used it. Everything was going pretty well. We made love and hugged, but those damn stories always stayed in my head. Darcy and I sat on the porch and watched the children play in the yard. We often sat on the veranda and watched people in the area walking or running past. We waved or said hello to almost everyone. There was one woman whom my wife did not love. Her name was Jennifer. She walked by and I waved to her, just like everyone else. After she replied to my hi, Darcy said hi to her too. "You know, I don't love her. Why did you wave at her?" Darcy asked. "We wave to everyone. Why do you hate her so much?" "This is not hatred, but mistrust. I heard that she is a girl of easy virtue, and she and her husband are exchanging partners. Her husband worked at the same factory as me, and I heard the same rumors there. He was unattractive and a good 15 years older than her. She was an attractive woman, so we thought that because she liked sex, he was using her to lure other couples into swapping partners with them. She could definitely attract men. What do women look like? Yet to her husband Carl, it was not clear to me. About a week later, I made a terrible mistake. Darcy left me a note that she would take the children and her mother to her aunt who lived in another city. She'll probably be back late, and I'll have to cook dinner myself. I sat on the veranda, drank beer, and waved to passers-by. Jennifer walked by alone and waved at me, and of course I answered her. She stopped and asked where Darcy was. I said Darcy went to her aunt. "Oh, too bad," Jen said. "I heard she renovated the kitchen and would love to see it. Could you show it to me?" I knew I should never have done this. In front of me was an attractive woman whom my wife did not like and who asked to come to my house. She was wearing a mesh top that showed her nipples and loose shorts that fell 4 inches below her belly button, with, "Of course, I'll show you the kitchen. I think Darcy won't mind." Damn, why was I so weak? I opened the door, and as she walked past me, she accidentally touched my hand between my legs. At least that's what I tried to convince myself of. She didn't say a word until she walked into the kitchen. What a beautiful kitchen. I love the way it is decorated, the tile floor, and so much cabinet space. Tell her everything looks great. She opened the refrigerator and asked if she could have a beer. She said she was very hot. What should the guy say? I should have said, "Get out of my house, I love my wife." But instead I said, "Sure, get a cold beer." She took the cold beer and started rubbing it on her breasts. I was already doomed at that moment. I walked up to her and kissed her on the lips. She put down the beer and wrapped her arms around my neck, kissing me with her mouth open. "Don't start something you can't finish," she told me. I raised my hand and slid it under her thin top, squeezing her breasts. I wasn't being subtle. Her conversation was something Darcy never did. She didn't say dirty words to me. It was kind of exciting. "Let's go to the bedroom. I'm not going to have sex in the kitchen," she said. I wasn't going to take her to our marital bed like that mattered. I pushed her into my daughter's room, where they were sleeping on twin beds pushed together. I quickly went to the bathroom and grabbed a large towel, placing it on the bed. "Tell Jen what you want, honey." "I want to take you," I replied. "Do you want your wife to be like me and have sex with other men?" "I'm not sure, I don't know," I replied. We started having sex. "Now, would you like to see your little wife having sex with another man?" I was in a fantasy world when I answered, "Yes, I would like to see." "Do you want me to call my husband to come and fuck her?" "Yeah, anyone, she needs some good hard sex." Jen stood up. She put on her shorts and adjusted her top. "It was wonderful, lover. I'll have to do this again sometime soon." Then I realized what I had done. I just had sex in my kid's bed. I've reached my sexual rock bottom. No, Jen, never again. I made a huge mistake. Never should have let you in. I'm so sorry for what I did. "It's a pity. Are you kidding? It was great, and I'm looking forward to the exchange." "Get out of my house, Jen. There will be no exchange." She laughed as she left the house. I felt terrible. I really did. Of course, having another man's wife is something else, but now reality has set in. I was nothing more than a cheating scumbag with no willpower. Darcy deserved much better. I didn't know what to do. Should I confess to Darcy or hope that everything will go away? I was nervous. I went to the girls' room and straightened the bed. I took the beer and poured some on the kitchen floor, wiping it off with a clean towel. This might be my excuse for washing towels. Besides, I could have had a beer at that time. When Darcy and the girls got home, I was folding towels. "What are you doing? Have you washed your clothes?" asked Darcy. "Just a bunch of towels." I spilled beer on the floor and used towels to wipe it off. "I knew you'd be mad that I didn't use paper towels, so I decided to wash them for you." "You're right, honey, but I would forgive you. I love you too much to worry about spilled beer," she said. Now I feel worse. She was good to me, and I just cheated on her. God, please help me. I don't want her to find out and get hurt. I thought God helped me the first time. Maybe he will help me again. Then I thought about my promise to God. Help me, and I will never do this again. But I did. I broke my promise to God and my wife. A couple of days passed, and I came home from work to find a completely different Darcy sitting at the kitchen table when I got home. She looked like she had been crying, but was calm now. "What's the matter, dear?" I asked. "Sit down. I have a question for you." I sent the children to their mother until we finished talking. I suspected the worst, and this is what I got. "Did you have sex with that bitch, Jen? I was married to you, and if I would trust anyone, it would be you. You know you are a bad liar, and I need the truth," she said. "Also, you should know that Jen has never been to our house, but she knows what type of blanket the girls have on their bed. So, with all that said, you had it." Damn, how could I not answer her? She waited for my answer with tears in her eyes. "Darcy, it was a mistake. I should never have done this. I'm really sorry. I don't know what to say. Please, I was too weak. I won't do this again. Please forgive me." Now I was crying myself. "Get out of my house right now, you dirty son of a bitch." "Darcy, wait. We'll get through this. And get out of my house before I take a gun and shoot you." "What about my clothes and stuff?" "Get the hell out right now. You can come back tomorrow when I'm not here and get your damn things." "Darcy, I'm so sorry. I really am so sorry." "Leave now, bastard." I knew her mood had changed and that I had better leave. I left, got in my truck, and drove away. I had no idea where I was going. I also wondered how she knew about it. Did Jen call her and why? Was it just to ruin our marriage? I went to Mom and Dad. I told them that Darcy kicked me out and why. My parents loved Darcy and told me how disappointed they were in me. They said I could sleep in the basement for a couple of days until Darcy cooled down. If she hadn't let me back in, I would have had to look for an apartment to live in. They made it clear to me that they were on Darcy's side and she would always be welcome in their home. The next day, I stopped by to get some things. Darcy was home, but the kids were still with her mom. Darcy, I'm so sorry. Sorry, that won't help. Today, I'm going to see a lawyer to file for divorce. I'm here to ask you a few questions. Darcy, please give me a chance to explain. Okay, explain. You bring a woman I hate into our house and sleep with her. Not that it's not enough, but then you say that you want to involve me in your perverted games and want to see that dirty pig Carl have sex with me. Is this true or not? Yeah, no hell, I mean. Oh God. I said it, but I never meant it. I never want you to be with another man. You have to believe me. Do you believe it? You said the same thing in our bed with me. What should I believe? You, your dreams, your actions. What kind of person are you that a damn pig came to you and asked me for sex? What? I never told anyone this. You just told me you said that to your bitch friend. Yes, I know all this. Her husband, a fucking pig, came to me and asked me for sex. What? When? What happened? Please tell me. Okay, as if you don't know. Carl came over and said he wanted to talk to me. I told him to wait on the porch while I turned off the stove because I was cooking. I wasn't going to let that happen. When I came to the kitchen, he came up behind me and squeezed my breasts. I screamed and pushed him away and grabbed my butcher knife, and he backed away. He got scared and went out the front door. That you said he could come here and have sex with me, and that you wanted to swap wives. Did you say that? That's not what I meant. Jen asked me during sex, and you know how I feel about it. I could have said something like that, but I never meant it. You bastard, I called Jen, and she told me everything. How you loved having her and want to watch other men have sex with me. Damn, now I know why you washed the towels in the first place. Rhett, I loved you with all my heart, and you fucking stepped on it. I'm going to go see my mom, and I don't want you to be here when I get back. If you come back, I promise I will kill you. We'll talk about divorce another time. I cannot now. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't speak. I just watched the love of my life walk out of my life. I cried and then gathered some things. In the following days, I found an economical apartment above the store we always go to. It was less than a mile from home. It was big enough for me. It was already furnished, so I didn't have to take much with me. It was a cheap place to live, but it was close to my family. My sister and brother both sided with Darcy. Why not? She was right. I was a damn weak-willed man who couldn't refuse other women. Darcy's family didn't talk to me much either. Her mom was the only one who still talked to me. Darcy demanded dissolution due to irreconcilable differences. She gave me the right to come and see the children as often as I wanted, as long as I called first. I didn't take them with me on weekends since we lived very close. Darcy got almost everything, including the house in which we had almost no equity, her car, and all the household furniture. I kept my 401k and personal items. I paid quite a significant amount of child support, but I didn't care. My children could not do without my mistakes. I did not care. I lost the only thing that meant anything to me, which was Darcy, but I didn't act like it. I just wanted us to get back together. I tried to talk to her about staying together, but she wouldn't budge on the matter, and who could blame her? She was a great wife and mother who married a jerk with no willpower. I thought it was strange to come and see the children, but I was lucky that Darcy even agreed to it. She told my mother that I had always been a good father, and she was not going to deprive me and the girls of the opportunity to see each other. Most of the time I played with the girls, or when they were both at school, helped them with their homework. I wanted to remain an important part of their lives. Who knew? Perhaps somewhere down the road, even Darcy saw that I wasn't so bad after all. The hardest part for me coming in was meeting Darcy. She always looked so sweet and even talked nicely to me about everything except us. I couldn't touch her, hug her, or even kiss her lightly on the cheek. I took it out on the girls, almost hugging them to death. Overall, I didn't think I was a bad person. Who am I kidding? I was a jerk who put my wife through hell. I loved my family and my ex-wife. They were still the reason for my existence. I just wished I wasn't such a weak-willed bastard. I was still working hard and taking all the overtime I could to help support my family. I remember the day I received my divorce papers in the mail. I walked to my old house and Darcy came to the door crying. She must have received her papers too. She opened the door and said, "Not today, Rhett. I can't see you today. Mom took the girls to her place. I just want to be alone." I started crying again, as I had been doing since I received the letter. "Darcy, just so you know, I sincerely apologize and will always love you." I turned around and went to the local bar to get drunk. I was drunk when I left the bar and got into my car. I thought about it and decided that I didn't want to get caught for drunk driving, so I walked. I found myself in front of Jen and Carl's house. I knocked on the door and Carl opened it. "Come out here, you bastard, so I can kick your ass," I screamed. "You are drunk. Get off my property or I'll call the police," Carl replied. "Listen, asshole, you helped ruin my marriage, and if I see you near my house or next to my wife again, I'll kill you, perverted bastard." Here I was blaming this man for ruining my marriage. I knew I did it myself, but this bastard actually approached my wife, and I was drunk. I staggered off his porch and went home to my apartment, more precisely. The walk probably did me some good. I got to the apartment and passed out. Woke up to the alarm going off for work the next morning. Life went on as usual, and I saw the children as often as I could without causing unnecessary inconvenience. Darcy and I got along quite well. Sometimes she even invited me to dinner. We even took the kids to the cinema together and did some other things. I was never allowed to stay overnight and certainly not allowed to hug or kiss the woman I loved. The holidays were a problem. I always saw the children and then they visited their grandparents on both sides. I once went to my wife's parents' house, but received such a cold reception that I never went there again for holidays. My mother-in-law, whom we call Mommy to distinguish her from my mother, is the only one who treated me well. Mostly I received a cold shoulder from everyone else. Even with my parents, I felt like a third wheel. I know that my parents could not forgive my actions. Damn, I haven't forgiven myself yet. I decided that from now on I would come to my parents alone for the holidays. If Darcy brings the kids later, fine. I'm tired of explaining my stupidity to everyone. I've been working more and more hours lately. I tried to see the children at least twice a week, and at least one day on weekends. I took them to my parents at least once a week. On Wednesday, I heard that my sister and a few of her friends were going to have a girls' night out, and I asked Darcy to go with them, and she said yes. Believe it or not, I was dumbfounded. I never thought about Darcy dating another man. I just assumed that over time she would come back to me. What an idiot I was. I called Bradley, a friend of mine who was also divorced. His wife had cheated on him, and asked if he wanted to go out on a Saturday night and have a drink. We agreed on a time, and I said I would pick him up. I knew the girls would go bowling, and then probably go to the bar next to the bowling alley. I was right, and when Bradley and I arrived at the bar, I saw my sister, Darcy, and 3 other women with them. I recognized the others as my sister's friends. Darcy was the only one woman at the table. Bradley and I sat down and ordered a couple of beers. The band started playing, and I stood up to ask Darcy to dance. That's when she noticed me for the first time and looked surprised. I took 2 steps before my sister stood in front of me. "What the hell are you doing?" asked Sue. "I was just going to ask Darcy to dance," I replied. "Why, Rhett, why are you here? We spent 3 months convincing Darcy to come out and have some fun, and as soon as she comes out, you're right there to ruin it. Why don't you drink a beer, go home, and let Darcy forget about your problems for at least one night?" I knew Sue was right, so I turned and walked back to my seat. The band was playing a fast dance, and a guy came up to Darcy and asked her to dance. She looked at me and then got up to dance. I knew she stood up to get under my skin, and it worked. She moved her beautiful ass all over the dance floor. I knew that she was shaking it, especially because of my presence. The song ended, and she was walking back to her seat when the man asked her to slow dance. She shook her head slightly as if to say no, but then went back to the dance floor with the guy. It hurts me, it really does, but I deserved everything that happened to me. The man pulled her closer, and she didn't look particularly happy about it. After a minute or so, he lowered his hand to her ass, and she lifted it back up. The second time he did this, she pushed him away, called him a pig, and returned to her seat. He laughed and went to the men's room. Bradley asked my sister to dance, and they were still on the dance floor. Bradley knew better than to mess with Sue, so I knew they were just dancing. I followed the man into the men's room, and while he was relieving himself, I quickly grabbed him by the neck and slammed his head against the wall twice. Then I threw him on his back on the floor and hit him twice. He just lay there, completely broken. He didn't even have time to get a good look at me. I turned and went back to the bar. The dance ended and Bradley led Sue to her table. I told Bradley to quickly come with me. "What's going on, Rhett?" he asked me when all the girls were watching. "Just come with me. I'll explain later." We headed to the car and left. 6 blocks later, we heard police car sirens. I explained to Bradley what I did, and he told me how stupid it was. "Have you lost your mind? Let her go. They'll put you in jail if you're not careful. You can't force her to love you. It should be her choice." I was almost to Bradley's house when my phone rang. It was Darcy. "What the hell have you done?" The police came to our table because I was the last one to dance with him. I told them I didn't even know this guy. "What's wrong with you, Rhett? He grabbed your ass, and when you told him no, he did it again. It hurt me." "Did it hurt you? You're a dreamer, remember? What would you do if I got him into bed?" Darcy asked. "I would kill him," I replied. "I don't need your help, Rhett. I can take care of myself." "You're right, I'm sorry. I'll never bother you when you go out again. If I see you somewhere, I'll go. I can't do anything right." I hung up. I knew that Darcy had now started dating and was leaving work with her friends. She didn't go out often and didn't try to advertise it. I think she was trying to start over. I decided to start dating too. I went on dates about twice a month with women who were probably just as hungry for companionship as I was. We had sex, but it wasn't love. It was just sex. One night, I was in the store downstairs from my apartment and met Alice. "Hello, stranger. Long time no see. Still doing those massages?" "Hey, Alice, you still look good," I said, looking over her beautiful body. "Sorry to hear about you and Darcy, but shit happens. I know I'm divorced too. I could use one of your temple massages right now. I came to the store to get some Advil. I live upstairs if you want to come. I can massage your temples and more." I wanted her to understand that she would get a full-body massage if she came up to me. "Sounds great. Lead," Alice answered. She bought Advil, and I bought a 6-pack of beer. I let her go upstairs first so I could admire her butt. I wondered if this was considered cheating. Then I remembered that I was divorced, and Darcy was already on dates, or at least going out with girlfriends. As soon as we walked in, Alice turned and kissed me. "I've wanted you for a long time. My kids are with Dad, so I can stay as long as I need for a full massage." I actually gave her a massage and had sex with her 3 times. It was almost 3 o'clock in the morning when she left. She had great sex, but I missed holding her afterwards. Over the next year, Alice and I met several times. We both knew it was just sex, which made it easier for both of us. I continued to maintain a close relationship with my parents and, of course, Darcy's mother. I still saw my kids 3 times a week unless they needed something special. I went to all the school events. Darcy was there with the children. I always sat in the back rows, looked at my children, and went home. I tried to sit with Darcy once, but she said she would prefer me to sit somewhere else. 3 years had passed, and Thanksgiving was approaching. Darcy was going to take the kids to her mom's as usual, and I was going to go to my parents for dinner. The girls asked me to make sure Grandma Parks, my mom, left some noodles for them. They adored her. I promised that I would bring them noodles. When I mentioned this to my mother, tears welled up in her eyes. She loved the girls and asked if they could come to our Christmas dinner. I told her I would ask Darcy and let her know. The day after Thanksgiving, I brought the girls noodles, and they called Grandma Parks to thank her. While they were thanking her, Darcy passed me a quarter of the pumpkin pie. Mommy said to give this to you. She knows it's your favorite, and that you told her she makes the best pumpkin pie. She's right, it's my favorite and truly the best I've ever tried. That was nice of her. Over the weekend, Darcy complained of pain in her side. I told her she needed to see a doctor. I paid extra money at work so Darcy would have good insurance. She said that if the pain did not go away, she would go to the doctor. I was at work on Thursday when I got the call. I have never received a call at work unless it was an emergency. It was Mommy, Darcy's mother. She said the school called and took Darcy to the hospital with severe pain in his side. I told her that I would come to the hospital. I asked my boss to let me go due to an emergency and took the next day off. I rushed to the hospital and Mommy was in the waiting room. She said that Harry, her husband, would arrive soon. The doctor came out and told us the news. Darcy's inflamed appendix burst. Luckily, it was discovered in time and she is being prepped for surgery. The operation will take less than an hour, then she will be in intensive care for about an hour. I expect she will be here for several days. We want to make sure there are no complications. The doctor left, and I went to the hospital chapel to pray for Darcy. I also asked forgiveness for myself. I felt that I was somehow responsible for her appendix. I was praying and crying when someone gently touched my shoulder. "She'll be fine, son." I looked up and saw my former father-in-law, Harry. He hasn't spoken more than 15 words to me in the last 3 years. We said a little prayer together for Darcy and then went back to Mommy. We all sat in silence until Mommy asked me about the children. I told her that my mom would pick them up from school, get them a change of clothes, and take them to her house. She will take them to school the next day. "Your mother is a wonderful woman. How has she been feeling lately?" asked Harry. "She and Dad are fine. They were hoping to see you too over the holidays. They respect you very much and, of course, love Darcy and the girls. Tell her that we will call about the meeting. They are wonderful people and your father is a great card partner. Women never beat us," he laughed. "Harry, you know that's not true. We have defeated you several times," his wife smiled. The doctor returned and said that the operation was successful and Darcy was in intensive care. She will soon be transferred to the ward. I quietly said, "Thank God," with tears in my eyes. Harry told his wife that he was going to go get something to eat since he didn't have time to eat lunch. He asked us if we wanted to go with him, but I said I wasn't hungry at the moment. Mommy asked him to bring her coffee. We headed to Darcy's room. While we were waiting for her, I had a question from Mom. "Mommy, over the past 3 years, I have been avoided by almost everyone in your family and mine. Everyone except you. Why didn't you judge me like everyone else?" "Rhett, what I tell you should not go beyond these limits. Do you promise me?" "Of course, Mommy. I will never reveal your secret to anyone. You're just so kind to me compared to others. If it weren't for my love for Darcy and the girls, I would have left long ago." She took a deep breath and looked me straight in the eyes. Shortly after Harry and I got married, he joined the army. I was young and single and started a short affair. This tormented me so much that when Harry returned, I confessed to him. I couldn't build our life on a lie or a secret. He looked at me silently for a long time. I thought I had lost him. Then he said to me, "Will you promise from this day forward that you will never cheat on me again as long as we both live?" I replied, "Harry, I love you with all my heart and soul, and yes, I will be faithful to you for the rest of my life if you forgive me." He said we would never mention it or talk about it again, and we didn't. I promise never to mention it, Mommy. It's a shame Darcy didn't give me that opportunity. I've matured a lot in recent years. Rhett, each person perceives betrayal differently. This is wrong and ruins most marriages. Everyone has their own way of dealing with it. In my case, Harry forgave me. In yours, Darcy finds it difficult to accept. Only time will tell. Lesson transported to the ward. She was still under anesthesia, but Mommy spoke to her and kissed her. I sat on the chair next to her bed and held her hand. I don't know if she knew I was there until she turned her head towards me. I had tears in my eyes when she asked, "Where are the girls?" It was all her, always worried about others. I explained about my mother and said that she just needed to get better. She looked down and saw me holding her hand. I was afraid she would take it away, but instead she just smiled and fell asleep. I didn't want to let go, but I needed to go to the toilet. I carefully put her hand down and left the room. She slept for a couple more hours. In the evening, many relatives and friends came to visit her. No one stayed long, knowing she needed rest. After everyone left, I sat back on the chair and watched her sleep. I just wanted her to know I was here if she woke up. Mommy and Harry wished her good night and said they would come in the morning. When the nurse said visiting hours were over, I told her I was Darcy's husband and I wasn't leaving. Relatives were allowed to stay in this hospital, but only sleep on a chair. Soon I passed out. I woke up several times at night and saw that Darcy was sleeping. She looked so peaceful. I woke up in the morning when the doctors and nurses began their rounds. Darcy looked at me and asked, "Have you been here all night?" I nodded and said, "This way I can tell everyone I slept with you." She actually smiled at me. I told her that I needed to go home and get cleaned up, but that I would be back later. I wanted to kiss her, but there were too many nurses busy with their work. I went home, cleaned myself up, and went to see my mom to make sure the kids were off to school. Mom gave me a couple of drawings the kids had made to take to Darcy. She said Mummy and Harry called to see how Darcy was doing. I returned to the hospital to see Darcy. Harry went to work, and I sat with Mommy. I gave Darcy the drawings the girls had made. They read, "Get well soon, Mommy." Darcy dozed off and Mommy and I were talking. I asked her about the men Darcy had dated, and she gave me that look. "Rhett, you know you shouldn't ask questions like that. If Darcy wants to tell you about her personal life, that's her right." I went out and got myself a soda, then came back and sat in the room. Darcy told me what the doctors said. She asked me to make some calls. She needed to cancel some appointments and inform the school that she would be away for about 6 weeks. This would last until the end of the holidays, so the doctor told her not to return until the new year. She was restricted from lifting heavy objects. She gave the note to Mom and asked her to make a call. I assumed it was her boyfriend. I don't think she wanted me to call for her. Mommy and I sat and talked with Darcy. Visitors came periodically. Most were relatives or work friends. A man came and kissed her on the lips. More like a smack, but it caught my attention. Darcy looked at me somehow. I simply turned away and continued the conversation with my mother, but inside I was seething with jealousy. "How are you, Darcy? Everything is fine. If you don't want to go on a date on Saturday, you shouldn't have done it," he said. "Jeff, you know Mommy, and this is Rhett, my ex-husband." He said hi to Mommy and simply nodded at me. Mom suggested we go to a cafe to eat. I knew better than to argue. I really didn't want to be there at that moment. We headed to the cafe and Mommy thanked me for not making the situation any more difficult for Darcy than it already was. After eating, I had to take care of business and didn't want to be there anymore. We returned to the room. "Darcy, I told Mom I would pick up the girls. The doctors say that you will be released tomorrow, and Mommy will take you home. If you need anything, call. I will come." "Thank you, Rhett," she said. "Thank you for being there." "Can I kiss you goodbye?" I asked. "I'm probably too weak to fight back." I leaned over and kissed her tenderly. "Thank you, Darcy," I said and left the room. For the next few days, I came every day after work. I cooked dinner for the children and for Darcy. I was ready to do whatever she needed. Darcy watched me carefully. I hoped she would see that I was really trying and had changed. I stayed until I put the kids to bed. Then he said good night. I didn't even try to kiss her. Everything was going too well to rush things. Darcy asked for help wrapping gifts and decorating the house for the holidays. I was glad she asked me to help. I needed to prove to her that I had changed and matured. She put things in boxes, and I helped the girls wrap them. They didn't even realize they were wrapping their own gifts. It made Darcy laugh, and of course it made me happy. I asked Darcy and the girls to come to my mom's for Christmas dinner. I told them how much Mom loved them and asked to invite them. She said that she would think about it and let me know after talking with Mommy. Christmas Eve arrived, all the decorations were in place, the gifts were wrapped. I arrived at the house. For the last couple of years, I've spent the holidays alone. Darcy called and invited me. I talked to Mommy, and she said that you should come and celebrate Christmas Eve with us. It's not right to spend it alone when you have a family. Call your mom and tell her to put out 3 extra bowls for tomorrow and make more noodles. I had tears in my eyes when I answered the phone. Mom, Darcy said to put out 3 extra plates for dinner and maybe make more noodles. Mom asked to talk to Darcy. Yes, Mom, we love you too. That's right. Okay, Merry Christmas to you too, Mom, and tell Dad we will. We went to Darcy's parents, and they treated me well. It wasn't the same as before, but it was definitely better than before. One day, when I went to the toilet, I heard Darcy and Mommy talking in the other room. Honey, it's none of my business, but I have to say that he still loves you very much. I know, Mommy, I know. When it was time to leave, Mommy gave me a whole pumpkin pie. Merry Christmas, Rhett, this one's for you. I hugged her and kissed her. Thank you and Merry Christmas to you too, Mommy. We went and I took Darcy and the girls home. Want to come over for a Christmas beer? Darcy asked. With pleasure, I replied. I would do anything to spend 5 minutes longer with my family. The girls began to get ready for bed. Good night, Dad. See you in the morning. Be here by 7 or we'll call you. They hugged and kissed me good night. God, how fast they grow. I always came in the morning to watch the children open their presents. That's what Christmas did for me. I sat on the couch looking at the tree and thinking how lucky I was to be here with my family. Darcy handed me a beer and sat down next to me. Rhett, thanks for helping with the kids and for helping with Christmas this year. Darling, you don't need to thank me for doing what I should and want to do. I know you don't like to hear this, but I love you. I have always loved and will always love. I've done a lot of stupid things, and now I'm paying for it. I was weak-willed and wrong. I was a kid who had to hit rock bottom and realize what I had lost before that damn light came on in my head. I can't change the past. God, how I wish I could do this. Maybe I was just too immature, but losing you made me grow. She just looked at me. She didn't say a word. I finished my beer and started to get up. Rhett, it's stupid for you to drive half a mile home and then get up hours later to come back. Do you want to sleep on the sofa? Then you'll be here in the morning. Plus, maybe you'll see Santa Claus. He's coming tonight, you know. She smiled at me. She got up and brought me a pillow and a blanket, and I lay down on the sofa. I heard her taking a shower and smelled her perfume. The only light in this part of the house came from the Christmas tree. I was lying there when I heard her come out of the bathroom. She came up and looked at me. She was wearing the red silk and lace negligee I bought her 4 years ago. I stood up and looked at her. You look so beautiful. Kiss me, Rhett, kiss me now. I kissed her and kissed her again and again. She looked very nervous. What happened, honey? Are you okay? I asked. I'm not sure what to do. I missed you so much, and I want you to make love to me. Now, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. I love you, Darcy. I want you to trust me, even though I don't deserve your trust. I promise I will do my best to make you happy. I need this second chance to prove my love. Only you can give it to me. She didn't say a word, but she took my hand and led me down the hall to her bedroom. The only light came from the night lamp, which she left on. We closed the door, and she took off her negligee. I also completely undressed. She lay down on the bed, and I sat down next to her and leaned over to kiss her. On Christmas morning, sunlight streamed into the room. Darcy and I were both wide awake. We heard Amber and Brittany talking. Britt, something special happened. I know, Amber. Santa has come, right? No, something even more special. Okay, what's more special than Santa at Christmas? Dad is in bed with Mom. He must have spent the night here. Do you think this means he'll stay? I don't know, but let's surprise them. Two girls ran into the room. Merry Christmas, Mom. Merry Christmas, Dad. Get dressed quickly. Santa was here, and we have a lot of gifts. They ran out of the room as we both stood up, and I got dressed except for a t-shirt. Darcy looked at me. You forgot to go back to the couch, right? No, I actually slept on the couch. I snuck back here about half an hour ago to surprise the girls. I laughed. Darcy laughed with me as she put on her negligee. God, she looked beautiful. We went out and started opening presents and having a great time. The girls took their gifts to their room as Darcy gave me a small gift the size of a paperback book. What is this? Another gift? I asked. Rhett, I've thought about this a lot since I had surgery. I want you to be in our lives again, mine and the girls. I will take you back, but there are conditions. Anything, Darcy, I'll do anything. For starters, you can't ask me questions about my personal life since our divorce, and I won't ask you about yours. We may have mutual friends, but Alice shouldn't come here anymore since she got that full-body massage she always wanted. You know about. You should also read this book. I quickly opened it. The Lorna Bobbitt story. Yes, I want you to know that if you ever cheat on me again, what I will do will be much worse. She didn't smile, she spoke seriously. Now, while you and the girls clean up the trash from the wrappers, I'll make us breakfast. Are you ready to take the risk? Darcy, I love you, and you gave me a second chance. Of course, I'm willing to take the risk. I hugged her and kissed her with love. God, how I missed kisses and hugs. We were having breakfast when the phone rang. I assumed it was Mommy calling Darcy, so I picked up the phone. It was a man's voice. Darcy, this is for you. I handed the phone to her. I could only hear half the conversation. Hello? Oh, hello, and Merry Christmas to you too. This is my ex-husband. No, I won't date again. I'm going to work on my marriage and make my family whole again. Thanks for being a good friend. That's right. Good, and Happy New Year to you too. Bye. She didn't say anything about who it was, but I assumed it was probably Jeff. The girls looked at their mom as Brittany asked, Mom, is Dad coming back to live with us? Yes, it seems so. God, it's already a wonderful Christmas, and it's just begun. Welcome home, Dad. Darcy and I had tears in our eyes. Brittany was right, it truly was a wonderful Christmas. When we told my parents at dinner, my mother burst into tears. She made us all cry. It seemed like she had accepted me back into the family instead of Darcy. After dinner, we went to Darcy's parents. Mommy was also very happy. What Darcy didn't know was that her father had called me into another room for a man-to-man conversation. Rhett, I love you like a son, but you hurt my little girl badly. She gives you a second chance. Don't screw it up. If you hurt her again, you'll have to deal with me. Everyone deserves a second chance, but you won't get a third. Welcome back to the family, son. Thank you, sir, and I realized what I was missing. Believe me, I won't make that mistake again. Her father almost never talked to me about personal things. I knew he was serious. In the following days, I moved some of my belongings back to our house. I asked Darcy when we were getting married again, and she said March 31st. It was our original anniversary, and she wanted to keep it. Darcy asked if I wanted to go somewhere for New Year's. I'd rather stay home and celebrate with you and the girls. We could play games and maybe rent a movie. After midnight, I want to take you to bed and start the new year off right by making love to you. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I want that too." That's what we did. After the girls went to bed, Darcy and I tried to make it through the night. We didn't make it, but it was fun. Life went on as usual and was good. We became a family again. We rented a small hall in March, and all our family and close friends came back to see us get married again. The only thing that was different was that our girls were bridesmaids and my dad was my best man. The ceremony was great, and I said out loud, "Till death do us part." This brought a smile to Darcy's face. I loved seeing her smile. After the wedding and in the hall, Darcy called me aside and gave me another small gift. I opened it and saw that it was a mobile phone. "Honey, I already have a cell phone," I said. "This one is special. If you ever feel the urge and you're afraid you can't handle it, there's a number you can call." She turned on the phone and opened her address book. "You see, Bobbit 1 is our home phone and Bobbit 2 is my mobile phone. You call and I will help you get out of trouble. I really want to help you," she smiled. "Honey, you look so beautiful in this dress. I am a very lucky person to have you. It's a good thing we didn't get married in September." "Why, Darcy?" "Because then I would be like a balloon." "What do you mean? Are you pregnant? I thought you always take birth control pills. I'm so happy to be a father again." "How did it happen?" "No, I know how, but when? Does anyone else know?" "Calm down, Rhett. I'll try to answer all your questions." She almost laughed. "Yes, I'm pregnant. It probably happened almost all night on New Year's Day, since our son Brett is due around September 30th, and no one knows yet. I thought the baby's father should be the first to know. Now let's tell our future grandparents.